minute, but apologies. Welcome to the first press briefing in this area for me. Okay, let me introduce myself. I'm Ernesto Abella, and I've been asked by the Secretary to assist him in conducting press conferences. And as agreed upon earlier, it may shift. We're supposed to alternately do one press con a week. But just to give you a bit of an understanding about the new office that the new office is called the Office of the Undersecretary for Strategic Communications and Research. And just to give you a general picture, basically there's the perception that there's an urgent need for the DFA to more effectively respond to the changing realities and challenges of a quickly evolving geopolitical, economic, and social-cultural conditions. Okay. And secondly, also, what seems to be of utmost importance at this stage is that we need to more effectively communicate the policies and messages of the government to our publics. Okay. And to utilize, of course, all platforms effectively and develop effective research and information gathering. At this juncture, I'd like to just say we have excellent support coming from the OPD with ex-dear Charmaine. And Ma'am, would you like to introduce the others?
Hindi mababasa mo pati na. Wala na kung binabasa. Wala na.
We'd also like to just say, we'd like to recognize, of course, much appreciated spokes Obi and Sir Raymond, yes. Okay, here's what we're going to do, and we just have a brief interchange. I just read to you a few statements and comments regarding what we consider the items that need clarification, and then we can have a brief interchange. Is that okay? All right. All right. The first one, the Philippine government is planning to contest the China name features in the Philippine rice. Actually, we have raised the issue of unauthorized researches conducted by the Institute of Oceanology of the Chinese Academy of Sciences during our bilateral consultation mechanism in Manila, which was held last February 13. Both sides agreed that all marine science research henceforth must have the consent of the Philippines. Second, regarding the Kuwait deployment ban, the Philippine government will not be lifting the deployment ban in Kuwait at any time soon. The President's instructions are to ensure that Filipino migrant workers are adequately protected in host countries abroad. Regarding the Saudi-made trade, Filipino household workers have reported that certain families and employees are in the habit of trading household service help among families. From our side, an audit is being made, and we are also taking guidance from the President's statement that the primary consideration is the welfare and safety of OFWs, and this has priority over economic gains. Third, the recent Command Conference of Ambassadors, heads of posts in the Middle East, Africa, and Europe also shared and institutionalized best practices, and also, quite significantly, We are pushing for a cabinet cluster on OFW concerns and eventually an interagency on OFWs to facilitate these concerns. I don't know if it's necessary at this point, but maybe just to reiterate the clarification on the GMA News report from the concerned office. The department wishes to issue a clarification in connection with the GMA News report that it's unsure about the arrest of the principal suspects in the murder of Joanna Dimafilis. As conveyed by the Philippine Embassy in Kuwait, Ambassador Ernesto Abella was informed of the arrest of Nader Essam Asaf by Kuwait officials of the Ministry of Interior. During that meeting, Ambassador Villa was told that Interpol Lebanon had alerted Interpol Kuwait of the arrest of Asaf and that a formal notification would be given on Tuesday, 27 February 2018. The arrest of the wife was conveyed to Ambassador Villa by the embassy's contacts that had connections with Lebanese judicial authorities handling the case. The arrest of Mona Hassoun was also later carried by the media in Lebanon, which Ambassador Villa also cited in his report to the Home Office. Maybe just a brief mention on the kafala system. The kafala system is a sponsorship system in the Middle East that is unique in the sense that the kafala or sponsor is not just a sponsor or employer as understood in the West, but becomes a virtual owner of the household service worker in the concept of chattel. While this is not officially stated, it becomes so in practice. This is manifested in slave labor conditions such as no days off, no food, 2 to 4 hours of sleep daily, and no treatment, often slave conditions including sexual slavery. There were 6,000 abuses in 2017 as reported by the embassy. This number includes sexual harassment and rape and shows employer tendencies that border on cultural practice. By this token, the problem is a deep-seated and affords no easy solution. The employment ban, which may or may not be permanent, thus creates for us an opening for fruitful negotiations. One item. On the U.S. designation of ISIS, affiliates as terrorist organizations. The Philippines welcomes the U.S. designation of ISIS, Philippines and Malta Group as foreign terrorist organizations and specially designated global terrorists. Terrorism is a global and a regional challenge, and cooperation with key allies is critical in averting terrorist operations. While we have concluded a successful campaign in Marawi against the Maute Group, countering terrorism continues to be a priority of this administration. We are profoundly committed to preventing ISIS from gaining a foothold in the Philippines and in Southeast Asia, and we should continue working together on this objective. Lastly, on Secretary of Foreign Affairs Cayetano's statements of the high-level segment of the 37th session of the HR Council. He opened with aside from my quote, he opened with a statement that says, "I'm here on behalf of the Filipino people to reaffirm our commitment to human rights. I'm here to ask that we all practice what we preach." He also said, and we quote, "We believe in accountability, that it is the state's duty to protect human life, human dignity, and human rights from aggression, terrorism, and the weakening of rule of law which destroys societies. Criminal networks trafficking in drugs, people, arms are a clear and present danger to modern-day society. We believe in the state's responsibility to protect its people equally from those who deny and destroy the human rights of others. In particular, the criminal trades and organizations that take wealth, destroy the health, and the very minds of decent, law-abiding people in increasing numbers. Further, he said, as a sovereign nation, we deserve respect and even support for our right to life and liberty, our sovereign right to self-determination, to make our people safe and secure from all threats, terrorism, corruption, and criminality. As you have seen in the ISIS attempt to take over Marawi, terrorism pretending to be an ideology or pursuit of religious beliefs, which were manipulated and perverted, is absolutely destructive and funded by the drug trade. We owe it to the 10 million Filipinos working overseas to keep their children and families safe. We owe it to all Filipinos to keep the Philippines safe. This same concern articulates the President's uncompromising stand against the abuse of migrant workers, numbering more than 10 million. To quote the President, the Filipino is no slave to anyone, anywhere, and everywhere. He continues, the Philippines' comprehensive campaign against corruption, terrorism, and criminality, especially against the methamphetamine trade, is a necessary instrument to preserve and protect the human rights of all Filipinos. It was not meant and should never be an instrument to violate any individuals or groups' human rights. The Philippine President has called law enforcers who abuse their position and violate their own people's rights as worse than criminality itself. When does the quest for human rights become a human wrong? It is when human rights is politicized and weaponized. When a UN Special Rapporteur cries out like the Queen in Alice in Wonderland, first the judgment and then the trial. When she calls evidence only for what might support her prejudgment, she loses the moral high ground and is stripped of any credibility. It is our collective responsibility to ensure the integrity and effectiveness of this Council's special procedure system. For this purpose, it is imperative that all special procedures mandate holders must strictly observe the Special Procedures Code of Conduct. Let this regard take to heart our Secretary General's warning not to politicize nor to weaponize human rights. May I recall, how will the honorable members of this Council convince countries to work with the Human Rights Commission if there is a perception of prejudice and prejudgment? May I recall that several member states have also expressed concerns about the conduct of certain mandate holders. Yet such conduct elicits cheers and encouragement from some NGOs who have lost their way, who claim to fight for human rights but conveniently forget the basic tenet of human rights, who forget the purpose of the special procedure and other mechanisms of the Human Rights Council. We will not allow these NGOs to portray an unfair and unjust image of our country, nor will we let it question the strength of our democracy. An example is the advocacy to legalize drugs. With no real research, some NGOs judge and condemn the government's campaign against drugs and criminality. We call this faulty generalization. To end, the Philippines reaffirms its commitment to the spirit of multilateralism embodied in the very creation of the United Nations in the work and aspirations of this Council. Constructive engagement in a multilateral context is badly needed in our world today. We need to engage and act, not merely name and shame. And the presentation, we are open to a few questions. Yes.
On your statement about venom rice that the Philippines wants to register its objection,
Yes.
in what form would we register our objection?
Already there's a mechanism that there's a mechanism for bilateral conversation, dialogue, and it was initially raised there. So that is the first process, first step.
But the body that approves the names, or would we register our objection before that body, the international body that approves the naming of the certain features?
As far as we can see, it's at this stage, it is we will have to proceed from henceforth. Okay, from henceforth.
So, sir, how did China respond to the way that we objected to their naming?
We raised our concern. Okay, when we raised our concern, they were quite willing to proceed upon agreed upon terms from henceforth.
So is China willing to withdraw the names that they registered?
That is that was not covered in the report. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good morning, Yusek. I am Makaraig from Agence France Press.
Yes, ma'am.
On the speech of Secretary Cayetano to the UN, mentioning that the Philippines was open to a rapporteur who is independent and objective,
Yes, ma'am.
is there any timeline for a UN rapporteur visit? And is the Philippines setting conditions like President Duterte debating a rapporteur on human rights? Thank you.
Ma'am, as I think as the secretary mentioned, what we're asking for is fairness. It's not a condition. I believe it's even a precondition. It's an assumption that there ought to be fairness, and that we cannot tolerate anybody who comes with a prejudgment and certified bias.
Sure, just because previously in the case of Agnes Calamard, President Duterte said she would be allowed in if she would agree to an open debate with him on human rights. In this case, with a new rapporteur potentially, would that be part of the request of the Philippines or the conditions of the Philippines for a rapporteur visit, a debate with the President?
I'm sure that the President was merely certainly expressing his opinion regarding the manner in which this ought to be taken up. However, there are certain procedures, and I believe we'll also go by that. Thank you.
Hi, Yusek. I'm JP Soriano from GMA News. Sir, just to clarify, regarding Joanna de Mafilis
Yes.
case, her female employer, the Syrian national, Mona Soon,
Yes,
she's been officially she's been captured already,
Yeah.
and you have an official report saying that.
Do we have the notification? No, we have not received the notification.
Yes, but have you had a chance to, our ambassador in Kuwait, was he able to get like photographs or pertinent documents that would prove that indeed she was already captured?
We went by the report to him,
Okay.
to the ambassador. We went by that.
Okay. Do you have any information, Yusek, if the Kuwaiti officials have already filed a case?
That's the notification that we're waiting for.
All right. Is it going to be murder? Do you have any?
No, we don't have any indication about
Okay.
how it will be handled and how it will be presented, how it will be framed.
Sir, regarding the kafala system,
Yes.
is it something that is included in the MOU that will be hopefully will be signed by the Philippines and Kuwait?
Well, the matter was discussed during the Senate hearing, actually. And as far as it is going to be framed in what part of the MOU, and we hope we're not privy at this stage to the development of the language.
But we want it removed. That's
It has been recommended. It has been recommended that, in fact, somebody from one of the officials actually suggested that the ban must remain until that is lifted. Although, of course, it's a deep-seated cultural practice and it's easier legislated than actually practiced. However, it must that is being recommended that the system must be officially addressed.
Thank you, Yusek.
Sure.
Sir, good morning. Sir.
Sir, good morning. Mai Bermudez from UNTV. Sir, during the Senate probe on the naming of Benham Rice features this week, sir, there is an admission from Secretary Esperon that China has illegally entered the Philippine rice in 2014 that led to the naming of the 5 underwater sea features. Are we considering a diplomatic protest, sir, against China?
Like I said earlier, the mechanism we're using is the bilateral dialogue. Okay. And having said that, that's where next steps are going to be developed. But basically, an agreement has been made that no further researches must be done without the permission of the Philippine side.
Sir, it was also discussed that the Office of the President is now the ones that will approve po yung maritime scientific researches sa Philippine rice.
If that is a new development. NSA. It's basically from NSA, National
NSA.
Security Agency, yes.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Here, okay.
Sir, just on your role here in DFA, are you now the DFA spokesman? And can you tell us more about your new role here in DFA?
I'm not the spokesperson, but the president, I'm sorry. The secretary has asked me to be able to speak in behalf of the department and in his behalf, as needed, at his pleasure. Yes.
There will be another spokesman.
I cannot comment on that, except that I know that that's not my role here. Okay. Yes, sir.
Ron, sir, of Kyodo News, Japanese
Yes, sir.
news agency. Sir, may I ask on matters outside of the statements that you prepared? Would you be able to confirm if the president will push through attending the ASEAN-Australia summit this March?
There's no official word regarding that matter, although I know that he has been invited.
Sir, on the comfort woman issue, there was a statement by Secretary Cayetano of January that an interagency task group was created. Do you have some updates to share with us, sir? About this matter?
Regarding that, I suppose the latest that we have would be that particular statement given out.
No findings yet, sir, to share.
We have not heard from the group.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hi, sir. Good morning.
Morning.
CN Arcangel from CNN Philippines. Sir, regarding Joanna's case again, I spoke with Director Dado and he said that from the Lebanese government, there has been a move to get the case records of Joanna's case to be transferred, or they would have a copy of that. Sir, but as parang possible na yung angle is para doon na lang matry yung case. But as far as the DFA is concerned, sir, what's your stand on it? Parang kailangan ba sa Kuwait matry yung case?
As far as I know, it must be that however way it goes, the safety and well-being and the rights of Joan de Mavelis must not be trampled upon and must be given. She must be accorded full rights. So whatever will be best for her and her family, that is the stand of the DFA.
Sir, walang categorical kung sir sa Kuwait gagawin yung trial?
Hindi
Kung
po, ang sinasabi ko lang po is whatever would be best for her and her family and the benefits accruing to her. Hindi po. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
You said that there will be no ban on deployment to Kuwait, but the President's instructions was to ensure Philippine migrant workers are protected abroad.
There
So
will be no lifting.
lifting of the
Yes.
a ban, sorry. But what concrete actions are being made to protect migrant workers abroad? And are other countries aside from Kuwait being looked at for a possible ban?
They're pushing for, definitely a certain stop. From the government side, they're already pushing for a cabinet cluster to be able to engage, to be able to recommend the actual steps that are needed in order to in order to protect the rights and benefits of the workers. That's among others. Okay.
What steps are we looking at? What steps are being proposed?
We have not gotten hold of those particular items yet.
So what kind of timeline are we looking at for this? I mean, this is now in the proposition phase.
I'm sure. As soon as possible. There's no dates because we also want to make sure that the workers are not left out in the cold, that they have economically they're looked after. But again, the president is always his priority is not so much the economics because he says we can source the economic benefits from others, just as long as the rights are there protected. Yes.
Any other MOUs on the way aside from Kuwait? Or please, can you enlighten us, sir? Because forgive me if I'm not familiar with if there are already existing MOUs with other Middle Eastern countries. Because it's not just reports of abuse are not isolated in Kuwait. There are reports from other Gulf countries as well. So are there, if there are existing MOUs, what are those? And if there are other being created?
At this stage, I'm sure, as far as I know, we're proposing MOUs with other concerned countries and nations. However, yes, sir. Yeah.
MOUs on labor cooperation under negotiations, such as Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Lebanon, Israel. These are all agreements designed to improve the working conditions and protect the rights of the migrant workers. They are in various stages of negotiation, so I can't say that they're going to be passed or they're going to be approved as I can't give you a timeline because they're all under negotiation.
Of course. Is the president's instruction is to fast track it? Did you get any instructions as something?
Yes, they are all being fast tracked as of now.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Sure. Well, you've been a very considerate audience. So if there are no other questions, we can, yes.
Sir, the President has spoken about possibly expanding the deployment ban to other countries, and he mentioned there was an ongoing audit or investigation
that's true.
of the conditions of Filipino workers in other countries. Could you give more details about that? Which countries are we talking about, and what kinds of criteria or conditions are we looking at for the Philippines to determine that it would impose a deployment ban on a particular country?
I think that's part of the MOUs that are being discussed. Okay, MOUs that are being discussed, so we can provide you with the exact details regarding the matter. And I think it would be at this stage prudent not to be mentioning nations.
Sir, is there also an update on the invitation of Kuwait for President Duterte to visit the Gulf state? Is it hinged on Kuwait signing the Memorandum of Understanding?
We have a statement. All right. On the status of the proposed visit of the President to Kuwait. The DFA wishes to confirm that the invitation has been extended to the President to visit Kuwait and has conveyed the invitation to the Office of the President. We defer to the Office of the President as to the date when the proposed visit will push through. The invitation was for March 5 and 6, 2018. Well, yes. Yes. Yes.
Nigeria. I understand it has been filed in December 2017. And why is it taking so long for the DFA to look into it?
Well, first, let me just agree with you, concur with you that the complaint has been received. However, we cannot comment on the particulars because there are certain details that need to be attended to. I'm sure you appreciate due process. Thank you.
Sir, on another topic, since the prosecutor of the ICC announced that she was beginning a preliminary examination into the Philippines, has there been any official communication from the side of the ICC or request to the Philippine government for information or for a potential visit by ICC investigators?
Well, as far as the office is concerned, as far as our office is concerned, we have not been notified of any such requests. Yes.
Just a follow-up on, again, on your new role in DFA.
Sure.
I think that's interesting. How do you feel now that you're speaking now for DFA, and what lessons from the palace can you bring to your new job here?
Well, how do I put it? Essentially, you're still speaking for the government. Yeah, so it's just that we have a different public now. Our publics are the international stakeholders, and of course, some domestic, largely domestic also. So the concerns remain the same. It is to be able to present accurate, timely facts. But mainly, more than just facts, it is to bring a timely understanding of the government's position, especially because so many times, I would like to say that the forest is often confused with the trees. Sometimes issues take up the picture when actually the big picture that the president is saying is basically the well-being of the nation, the progress of the nation, and that all of these things that he's engaged in are really meant to bring about a more comfortable life for the Filipinos. Again, let me just bring you back to his three-point agenda, which is inclusive prosperity, law and order, and peace within our times. And that is why, if we see that this is the meta-narrative, then we'll be able to appreciate it more. And this is where I'm more or less engaged in making sure that the meta-narrative is conveyed more clearly. Thank you very much. You are an excellent audience. Yes?
Sir, just on your statement on the designation of the United States of Maute Group as among foreign terrorist organizations, how do you think this helps the Philippines counterterrorism efforts? Does this cut their foreign funding or the arms or money that they receive potentially?
No, I believe more than just the funds or benefits that we can receive materially. It is basically that it strengthens our relationship with our neighbors, multilateral relationships, because it's not just a Philippine concern. It is a concern that affects the entire region. In fact, more than just a Southeast Asian region, it's an Indo-Pacific concern. So that particular it widens and broadens our perspective and also our concerns to be able to strengthen relationships in the region. Yes, sir.
The Malaysian government has recently issued a statement reiterating its claim on Sabah. Has the Philippines actually communicated with the Malaysian government regarding that? It was based on a statement issued by former Senator Pimentel Jr.
Yes. So far, we have no formal reports of advancing that particular issue with that particular government.
But Secretary Cayetano has not talked to the Malaysian officials regarding that.
When he does, we will inform you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sir, there is an article that was sent to us that some fishermen in Zambales were interviewed. They said that they reviewed that allegedly they get to fish in Masinloc, but like thieves. If the Chinese see them, the invaders will shift through. So in short, they get to fish, but in Chinese terms. So were you able to confirm these reports? Have you had the chance was there a formal a report or statement, sentiments from the fisher folks in that area? And if you did, what is your comment on that?
Like you said, at this stage is anecdotal, but even when it is confirmed, then it can be raised to the proper bodies in order to be able to discuss. Again, once more, this is a truly serious concern, and of course, at any level, it's a serious concern. It can be discussed in the bilaterals. Okay, thank you very much. Good morning.